This is for big people. Thank you all very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and Dr. Hendon, thanks very much for that gracious introduction. To all of you, I can't begin to tell you how proud I am to be here. One, because the Martin Bolden family, we have a lot of Charleses, and we took a picture beforehand of the three Charleses that are here. I have to join with both Amber and Charles III in thanking Dr. Porter, recognizing him, the founder of this school. And I congratulate all of you on the 26th annual commencement of the Westcoast School for Human Development. This may be the smallest graduation class I've ever addressed, but as we have learned from Scripture, wherever two or three are gathered, before I go any farther, I do have to acknowledge the presence of another very special person to me and to Charles, and that's his grandmother, and that's my Aunt Alice, who is here, and she is the matriarch of our family now. I don't know whether that's good or not, Aunt Alice, but it's better to be on this side. So I thank you for all you've done for all of us. Aunt Alice put up with my Uncle Charles for I don't know how many years. And Uncle Charles and my father Charles and my mother Ethel are looking down on us, and I can tell you, I'll bet you they're all very proud also tonight. Uncle Charles used to have a saying, and it was very simple. It was, "You ain't nothing but your word." And that is not a part of my speech tonight, but or my remarks, but I thought I would share that with you because it is. Although I won't talk about integrity, I think Amber, you and Charles have learned its importance in this school in the time that you've spent here, and it is something that is a hallmark of every successful person, and I would say that's something that you should always cherish. As your grandfather taught me, you ain't nothing but your word, and so we should always remember that. The two of you who are gathered here tonight, Amber, you and Charles. You're following a great tradition of this school, and both of you will be attending college in the fall. I know how anxious both of you are to receive your diplomas, so I'm going to try to follow the 3 B's of a good commencement speech. Be brief, be sincere, and be seated. But before I go any farther, I do want to take this opportunity to thank and congratulate your parents, your family members, and all the friends who are here to celebrate this great day with all of you. And they all deserve a round of applause, and I'm going to give them one. I know this school, where excellence is the norm and greatness is your standard, places a big emphasis on the arts. In fact, I understand that, Amber, you're planning to pursue a career in musical theater. But Charles is interested in physical therapy, as he mentioned. Interestingly, both these disciplines require proficiency in STEM disciplines: science, technology, engineering, and math. And if you have any question about it, if you heard their theses, that was pretty deep. That was a lot deeper than I'm gonna get. I understand the connection between physical therapy and STEM, but music. Some of you might wonder, well, if you've ever tried reading a musical score and understanding all the numbers and symbols, it's a system of octaves or eights on the page, and so I think most of you will get what I mean when I say it is STEM related. There's hardly any discipline you can think of these days that doesn't require some understanding of math and science, including the exploration of space. That's what I want to talk a little bit about today. As you know, there's a crisis in this country that stems from a gap between our growing needs for scientists, engineers, and other technically skilled workers, and our available supply. This crisis in education, if not resolved, will contribute to future declines in qualified employees to meet the demands in critical career fields that affect U.S. global competitiveness and the national economy. As President Obama has wisely noted, and I quote, "The country that outeducates us today will outcompete us tomorrow," unquote. That's why STEM education is the foundation of NASA's learning initiatives. At NASA, our needs for workers across the aerospace in the coming decades will be great. The space program is soaring to new heights with new destinations on the horizon and new workers needed to advance aviation and space technology. A growing number of small and medium-sized private companies are also coming aboard as the commercial space industry picks up steam. Just last week, we saw the first successful launch and docking to the International Space Station, and it's appropriately called berthing, not docking. There is a slight difference. A docking that people like to talk about is where the vehicle flies itself or somebody flies it in and connects to the vehicle. Berthing is what SpaceX did because it doesn't have the ability to do that, so it flies within proximity, stops, and then somebody on board reaches out and grabs it the way we did with the remote manipulator arm, the mechanical arm. So that it was actually berthed, but that's a technicality, and some people say don't worry about it, but I want you all to get it right. SpaceX, with their successful flight, they brought us to a new era in commercial spaceflight. More U.S. companies are getting in the game, and all of them will need STEM-educated workers. That's why in FY 2011 alone, NASA's K-12 education projects reached more than 1 million students through STEM initiatives. An additional 4,000 college students benefited from the agency's higher education projects through internships and fellowship opportunities. The good news is that everywhere I go, I meet people like you too, and the other students here at Westcoast School who are eager to enter the STEM fields, but desire is not enough. While we know that everybody is not going to go into STEM fields, we have to make sure that students here and across the country have access to STEM studies and that those who wish to stay with it get it and get the help they need to succeed. Finally, let me say to you, Amber, and you, Charles, you're going places that people who look like you or think like you may not have traditionally gone. You have a head start because of what you have learned here. You're entering a far different world than the one that existed when I was growing up in the segregated South in the 1950s and 1960s. There have been many hard-won gains for African Americans and others who were disenfranchised. On March 7th, 1965, on a bridge entering Selma, Alabama, 600 civil rights marchers were attacked and brutally beaten simply because they were marching for their own basic human rights. At the head of that march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge was John Lewis, today a member of the Georgia congressional delegation. 8 days after the attack, a Texan, President Lyndon Baines Johnson, came before a joint session of Congress to propose the historic Voting Rights Act. Something that I don't need to remind anybody in this room is of critical importance. Today, Congressman Lewis likes to say that on the end of the bridge, opposite from the police who attacked the marchers, on the other end of that bridge is President Barack Obama. I understand his view, but I have another. I believe on the other side of that bridge are you, Amber and Charles, for it's your generation that will have the chance, if not the right, to take the hard-won advantages you have inherited from my generation to fruition. Embodied in you are the hopes and dreams and aspirations of a truly united America. It is only as one nation that we will be able to face and conquer the challenges that science and technology have in store for us. So I ask you to think boldly about the next leg of your educational journeys. My daughter Kelly is a plastic surgeon, and my son Che, a lieutenant colonel in the United States Marine Corps. My wife Jackie and I have always given them this advice: dream big dreams. Do what you want to do. Don't listen to anyone who tells you you can't do something or you don't belong. Do your job and do it very well. And don't let the opportunity to make a difference in your world pass you by. I know you both have just returned from your senior class trip to Cape Town and Durban, South Africa. So it makes me think that I want to share with you and everybody here a short story about a young man by the name of Nkosi Johnson. Nkosi was a young African child born in a place called KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. Nkosi was born with AIDS because his mother had been infected with AIDS by his father, who left them. And she died very shortly after his birth. But before she did, she talked to a young white woman by the name of Gail Johnson and asked Gail if she would take care of her son and raise him. And Gail Johnson promised to do that. And as Nkosi grew, somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 or 5 years old, he started talking. And all the neighbors in the village tell the story that Nkosi, when he started talking, he wasn't just talking baby talk. He was telling people, we need to do this for the village. We need to do this for other people. We need to do this. We need to do that. Nkosi was about purpose and making life better for everybody else. In time, a young American writer by the name of Jim Wooten heard about him, and he traveled all the way to South Africa to meet this kid. And he said when he got there, he's about 10 years old, and he just couldn't believe him, the wisdom in this young child. He could tell he was sick because his body was frail, and he had sores all over his body and everything. But he said behind this beautiful, sore-filled black skin were these beautiful white teeth just sticking out on his face. And he said, Nkosi, I don't quite get it. He said, you're sick, really sick. And all you ever do is talk about helping other people. What's with it? And he said, Nkosi looked at him and he said, I may be poor, I may be black, I may have AIDS, but in this world, in God's world, we're all the same. And so Jim Wooten returned to the United States, and he wrote a very short biography of Nkosi Johnson that was called We Are All the Same. And sometime later, he got a call, and it was from some folk in South Africa that said, hey, Jim, if you want to see Nkosi again, you need to hustle back because he's going to die. He's not doing very well. And so Jim Wooten said he got a ticket, rushed back to South Africa, and sat at Nkosi's bedside. And there was this 12-year-old kid, weighed less than 20 pounds, skin and bones, sores all over everywhere, just oozing. But there were these beautiful white teeth shining and smiling in this black face. And telling people, we need to do this, we need to do that. There's still work to be done. And Jim said, stop. He said, Nkosi, you're going to die. And he said, Nkosi looked up at him and he said, yep. He said, you could die today. Nkosi said, yep. He said, well, I don't get it. What makes you tick? Why do you do what you do? You have to be in pain, it's obvious, but you've never cried out for anybody's help. You've never asked for anything for yourself. All you're ever doing is talking about making the world better for other people and making your village better and making your country better and making the world better. What gives? And he said, Nkosi looked up at him and smiled and he said, you do all you can with what you have in the time that you have in the place that you are. Do all that you can and I know you two will. But do all that you can with what you have in the time that you have in the place that you are. Amber and Charles, Westcoast School for Human Development, class of 2012. I can't tell you with any certainty how the social landscape of America or the geopolitical landscape of the world will look in 10 years. But I expect that you two will help lead us to a better world. Not just more prosperous, but filled with more fairness, more opportunity, freedom, creativity, and love. It's been said, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. That's our mission at NASA, and this is your moment. Congratulations to the two of you. Good luck and Godspeed.